How's it going, everybody? I'm Josh from Elder Drunken Highlander, and I'm coming to you with a tournament report for the Founders Cup tournament, which is my first ever cEDH tournament. It was a lot of fun. I kind of scrubbed out, though, but that's okay. We had a blast. I was playing Temur Pirates, aka Temur Malcolm, aka the Road to El Discardo, and I feel like I did pretty well. My overall record was 0-3-1, but I don't think I lost because I misplayed horribly or I did things wrong. I think the big glaring mistake that I made this tournament was I could have tuned my deck a little bit differently in anticipation of all the fucking Jessica decks that people were fucking playing. But other than that, I think I did pretty well. Like, in terms of overall play decisions, I made one huge misplay in the last game that didn't end up mattering, but I immediately realized after casting the cards, I was like, oh, that was a mistake. But other than that, I did pretty great. I just lost a lot of my games, just bad luck, or the other person just having it before I did, and other stuff like that. But it was a pretty good time. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go through each of my games and kind of break down what happened, maybe show some clips, and like talk about each game, go through each one. And then at the very end, Zrob, who is the other pilot of Temur Malcolm in this tournament, who had the best overall win rate in the entire tournament and ended up taking the deck to the finals, is going to talk about his games a little bit. I have some sound bites from him, and he's going to talk about all the things that he did in his games that ended up carrying him to the finals with pretty much the same deck. I'll flash the Moxfield compare up on the screen right now so you can see the card differences between his deck and mine. There aren't that many. He was on Sudden Demise, which I thought was really smart given what the tournament ended up being. There were 6 different Winota decks registered for the tournament, and the finals almost ended up being Winota, Temur Pirates. Like, it was spooky. Winota is a scary fucking deck, and the deck that made it to the finals with Winota wasn't even a combo deck. It was a combat damage Winota deck running like Jorkadine the Prevailer and other ridiculous shit. This is, I mean, honestly, that's a thrilling thing to think about, is that a combat damage cEDH deck made it all the way to the top 4 in the Founders Tournament. And this was a high skill tournament. Everybody who's playing was showing the fuck up. All of my games were intense, and most of the players there were better than me. For now. We're going to break down each of my games. We're going to go through each one, and we're going to talk about what's going on. Game 1 was an interesting one. It was a 3-man pod because someone ended up dropping after hearing like the rules and all the stuff you need to do for the tournament. I guess maybe they chickened out, or they didn't think the $300 prize pool with free entry was worth it. So I ended up being in a pod with Deco from cEDH Brazil, Kid Who Sucks, and myself, and I was going last. Deco is on Mad Farm, which is Tim to Jessica. It's an ad nauseum deck. We had Kid Who Sucks on Stick Fingers, trying to put With a Bloom Apprentice combo into the graveyard, and then me in the old Temur Pirates. And I figured this was a terrible matchup for me because Jessica just eats Malcolm alive. And I thought that I needed to race Deco, because my line of thinking with this game was I was going last. Mad Farm is already a pretty fast deck. Stick Fingers is already a pretty fast deck. I think this pod's going to be a race. I'm the only blue deck. I'm not going to play Table Police and put myself behind like that going last. So I think they're both smart players. They know what my deck does already. There's no need to play coy, waste time sandbagging or anything. I'm just going to fucking go for it. And they're not on blue. They probably won't have enough interaction to stop me. So my plan going into the game was I was keeping a hand where I had a turn 1 Worldly Tutor for Glinthorn Buccaneer. Turn 2, I was going to power out Malcolm. And then turn 3, I was going to go for it. What I did not expect, because I thought, like, what the fuck are they going to do to Glinthorn once it's down? Like, I have a deflecting SWAT in hand. I was really banking on using the deflecting SWAT because I thought, like, they're not in blue, so they can't stop me from casting Glinthorn. They have to remove Glinthorn or Malcolm, so I can SWAT. I can protect with the SWAT. So Deco casts his Jessica, and I'm able to Fierce Guardianship the Jessica, keep my Malcolm alive. And then it gets to my turn with Kid Who Sucks leaving mana open. I'm thinking for a kill spell. And I'm like, oh, perfect. I'll deflecting SWAT this. It'll be easy. I'm going to kill Deco's Timna. Here we go. I put down the Glinthorn. Kid Who Sucks casts fucking Withering Boon. And I lose the game to Deco comboing out with Mad Farm. It was a good game, though. Game 2, I think I played it pretty well as well. it was me going second, with Cole going first on Azami. Cole's an Azami main. This is his main deck. He has a lot of familiarity with it. And him going first on the control deck, that's big respect. You have to be very careful of that. And I didn't want to pop off early in this pod because I didn't think I'd be a successful win attempt. Going second was me on the old Temur Malcolm. And going third was Hokey Rules from the Spellseekers on Mad Farm. Another fucking Mad Farm deck. Another fucking Jessica deck, which is awful for me. It means I really shouldn't even try to stick my Malcolm, basically, because the Jessica's just gonna absolutely ruin me. Lastly, we have Big Richie, aka Diving Elbow Drop, on Tatiova. This is a tried and true tournament deck, and it has to be big respect to Tatiova as well, because if the game goes long enough, then Tatsuova's just going to take it with the resources it gets. Lucky for me, Cole seemed to have the same thought as me, that Tatsiova can't be allowed to like get off in the late game, and he spent almost all of his control magic on Tatsiova. I think he used one counterspell on me and a few on Hokey, and mostly all of them on Tatsiova, making him recast Tatsiova over and over again, keeping him off. I actually have to thank Cole for handing me the draw there, because there's no way I was sticking Malcolm in that pod anyway. I think I tried to force a win at one point. No, I tried twice. I hard cast Glinthorn Buccaneer, and Cole hit me with literally counterspell. And I was like, alright, fair. How many more of those are there, though? And I Noxious Revival, Glinthorn Buccaneer, cast that motherfucker, and then Big Richie hits me with literally a counterspell. So I was like, alright, time to make the game a draw, I guess, because I'm definitely out of it now. And so I guess we did that, thanks to Cole. Game 3 was honestly a blast. It was so much fucking fun. It was a really close game. I almost took it. But it was just a really great game, getting to see everybody do all the stuff that they got to do. Everyone kind of got really scary at one point. I wish I'd recorded audio for my games. I was thinking I'd just be talking over it, so I wouldn't bother recording the audio anyway, but honestly, I would have loved to upload that game, because that game was a blast. We had Steve Lander going first on Anya. You had fucking... Anya is a spicy deck, by the way. Like, holy crap. There's an Anya player in my locals, and I love watching that deck go off. Even knowing the matchup, though, I couldn't do much about it one time when push came to shove. Then next we have Mons from cEDH TV playing his signature deck, Sisay. Me, of course, on the old Road to El Discardo, and then Pontus, who's also a regular on Mons' stream and a very strong player in his own right, on Thrasios Timna. It was a great pod, too, because Mons and Pontus have that rapport, so they were talking a lot of shit and calling each other's decks out, like telling us how to stop each other, which is nice and appreciated, because I don't want to have to go read the book on how Mons' Sisay deck works. You know, that thing is very complex, and it definitely works to its own advantage, like all the crazy shit that it can do that you have to be ready to predict. Like, I'm not even aware of what that deck is doing really most of the time. I can just kind of guess 60%, and I feel like that's an advantage of one of those complicated toolbox decks like that, is even if you do know what he does, like, I'm pretty sure he has like multiple variations of it, and he can just choose to play a different Sisay deck, and what you can't tell until he plays like 5-6 cards, and you're like, oh, that's not in the other Sisay list. So it was very nice having Pontus there to tell me what Mons was doing. So what ended up happening that game is I actually had an early win, but Pontus put down a Collector Oof. And then Mons stopped Pontus from winning with the flip guy from Strixhaven. I forget his name, the vampire dude that exiles creatures when they die, so that Pontus couldn't do his Hermit Druid bullshit. So then Pontus and Mons locked each other out, but Pontus also locked me out of the game, which really fucking sucked. So what ended up happening is we stopped Pontus from winning, and we stopped Mons from winning, and the whole time I'm passing priority, and I'm holding a lightning bolt for the Collector Oof in my hand, and I'm sandbagging my removal, because I'm like, alright, here's what's gonna happen. If one of them wins, like, they're gonna fucking win anyway, and I already lose because there's this Collector Oof. Because I only have one removal spell and no way to protect it, my only hope is that one of them also has a way to stop this, and that I can use the removal spell to win when it gets to my turn. And it fucking paid off. And I go to my turn, and I use my fucking lightning bolt on the Collector Oof, and
swap that to the vampire shutting me down.
That's also bad, by the way.
Is that a 2/4? What is that? Oh, it's a...
And I got fucked. And that was that. And then Anya untapped on her turn and won it. So that's how it goes. But very well played to everybody there. It was pretty fucking cool watching everybody do their things with their decks and pop off. It was such a fucking great game. We actually played one for fun after that, just because it was kind of quick, and that was also a blast playing the game for fun. So good times all around to everybody there. Like, fantastic game, but sucks that I lost though. Game 4 was at that point I realized there's really no way of me getting into the top 16 for the tournament, and I was just going to be playing it for fun, and I kind of played a little fast and loose in the end, just because I stopped focusing as much, not because I was just trying to be a troll or anything. I just forgot about things that I also needed to be aware of in order to keep playing correctly, and I like drew a dock side and was like, ooh, dock side. Like, poor decision. But it happens. It happens. Game 4 was Jarzios going first on Naru Meha. He's very, very familiar with this deck. It's like one of his main decks, I'm pretty sure. And he's very strong with it. So I expected a lot of strong plays from him, and I expected him to try and sneak a win at instant speed with Naru. I used to play Naru in like paper tournaments. Not really cEDH tournaments, but more like play your best deck tournaments back in the old days before the pandemic. So that was like my non-proxy deck. So I actually am rather familiar with what the deck tries to do. So I wasn't super scared, but I did respect the deck and the player quite a bit in that matchup. Next was Phoenix on Prosper, and Luke from my Discord, one of our patrons, who almost entered the tournament. Actually, he's a pretty good cEDH player too. He told me I'm not allowed to lose to Prosper, so I tried really, really hard not to lose to Prosper for him, and I did actually fail. Phoenix ended up taking the game because he's very, very good at Magic, and he was very patient with Prosper. And Prosper is an insane value engine. I gilded Drake Prosper that game, and I got to have a Prosper playing like mid-range Malcolm, basically, because I didn't think I'd be able to come off with the interaction that Jarzios was holding off the whole time. I was like, I don't want to try and pop off and get blown out. I want to be safer with it. And I think I was kind of mana screwed. I don't remember. I didn't look at the game videos before recording this. I just fucking went. We're just going. If I play the footage and it turns out what I'm saying is wrong, then I'm just gonna keep it. I'm not gonna edit this cut. I woke up in my fucking bathrobe and I just started recording immediately. Like, I haven't had breakfast yet. Anyway, going third was Zamzablam on Corvold, a house that's another deck that you need to fucking respect. Like, don't let Corvold get any bit of advantage, because it'll take it and it'll go all the way over there and run with it. So you need to be very careful about Corvold. And I was going last, which is the other reason I wasn't trying to play fast or aggressive. Prosper's got like 8 billion removal spells in their deck. Narame has mono blue and relies on counter magic to keep itself in the game. It's not a control deck per se, but it does need to use those well-timed counter spells because it's more like a blue mid-range combo deck. And so based on that, like, I knew Corvold wouldn't be doing much, but like I thought that like to stop me in terms of that, and I had to like be like reactive to Corvold. So I was trying to put Malcolm out and just use the treasure advantage to grind something and try to keep myself in the game most of the time. Corvold ended up playing a lot of control and putting himself behind to keep other players from winning, which worked out to my advantage quite a bit. But even despite that, I couldn't take it, which is very, very unfortunate. I had a little bit of a misplay, maybe 2 misplays, but it happens. It was game 4, and Phoenix ended up taking it, and that took him into the top 16. So big props to him. He just kind of big brained us all, which I guess what happens when you play against a Mind Sculptor. So I obviously didn't make it into the finals, but Zrob, who is the other pilot of Temur Malcolm, did. So you're going to hear some of his takes. So Zrob was much more aggressive than me with his mulliganing for like a turn 1 Malcolm almost every single time. He was also going first a lot more of his games, which I never got to do, which is okay, I guess. So he was able to be a lot quicker with his games, and you can see what he says about how fast he was able to end most of his games before the semifinals started.
Yeah, I would say every single game, if I won it, I won by like turn 4, probably. So, yeah, I usually try to mull for hands that would just get me a Malcolm out like turn 1, and then have a win or something, and then just pray that I like get whatever thing I'm missing on the like next 2 draws. So I was lucky enough that 2 of the games actually I went first. My first game was like, it was I think it was like against 2 blue farm, and then I don't actually remember what the last deck was. But I was going first, and my hand was like turn 1 Malcolm, and then I think I took a photo of it actually. Yeah, it was like a Crypt, Spirit Guide, Elvish Mystic, Eldritch Evolution, like Deflecting Spot, and some lands. So yeah, so I had a pretty good turn 1 where I got Malcolm out, and I got my Elvish Mystic out, and then the blue farm, one of the blue farm players went to 4, so I knew that they had nothing. For the most part, they were just trying to like get like a Crom out, most likely. And then the other blue farm player also had a really insane turn. He got his Crom out. So, and then I think the person who was going last didn't do much. Oh, I think they were on cEDH. That's right. So yeah, they just played like turn 1 Dork or something. So I actually top decked a Fierce Guardianship that game, and it was useful because the blue farm player who had the really good turn, he had a lot of interaction for me, so I was able to fight through it.
He also made some really great standout plays, such as setting up a bait in his semifinals game by casting Tana, making other players think he didn't have it.
That game was like, I had kept a hand to play a long game. I kept a hand with like turn 1 Malcolm, and then I had a Psych Rift and a Sudden Demise and like a bunch of lands and like a Mox Diamond. So yeah, so the Mox Diamond helped get the Malcolm out, and then I was just like, okay, we're just gonna play the long game. Turn 2, I like cast Tana because I was just like, seems like it's gonna be a combat game. I want blockers out. I want to just have this out here, and then when I cast that, I think everyone. I wasn't. It seemed like people thought I didn't have it just because I cast Tana. There was like a Chalice on 1 as well. So when I top decked the Eldritch, I was like, I don't have to worry about any 1 mana counter spells, any Swords to Plowshares, or Path to Exile, or anything. So I'm gonna send it.
He also was able to draw a lot of the pieces he needed in the games he needed them in. In his longer games, he's able to stick a Niv Mizzet, which is something I would love to have in that long game with Cole on Azami and Big Richie on Tatiova. That would have been hype. Too big for the Jessica to kill, draws me a bunch of cards, pings Azami to death. That would have fucked. But I wasn't able to find the Niv Mizzet that game. Maybe I could have tried searching for the Niv over the Glinthorn in hindsight. I just thought of that now. That's probably, in slower games, I might try to turbo out Niv instead of Glint, because that's less of a, it's less of a scary thing. I think people still might want to try to save their removal for Glinthorn in my deck, but it does get me enough value to overcome decks that might have stacks or control pieces. You can see what Zrob does when he talks about it. He does some crazy shit. He manages to pull a win with it.
I think in my 4th game, actually, I did not win with Glinthorn. It was a really long, stacksy game that almost went to time. And my Malcolm was stolen by Gilded Drake. I had absolutely no way to get it back in my hand. So at one point, I just like docksided, and I got like, everyone was very greedy with their treasures. They didn't want to correct them. So I got like, I want to say like 14 treasures or something off dockside. And then I just, there was a rule log in place. So I was just like, I'm just going to pass turn, everyone's just going to deal with each other. Hopefully it gets back to me. Next turn, cast Niv Mizzet. And then on the next turn after that, I just finale'd for the Tandem Lookout and then went for the win from there.
In his finals game, he was able to stick a turn 1 Malcolm on a risky hand, but unfortunately it didn't pay off. Even so, he had an excellent overall tournament performance with Malcolm, and his game in the finals was pretty well played despite the disadvantages he was at, not only from being down in mana, but also being held at gunpoint by a Mayhem Devil and 2 fetch lands over on Killstars' side. Killstars ended up winning the whole thing. And so a series of very nicely played games. I'm going to take a moment actually to shout out Killstars, because not only was his finals super tight, but his semifinals match was super tight as well. Very, very well played the games of his that I watched. So big shout outs there to the winner of the tournament. Very well deserved from Killstars. Zrob had the turn 1 Malcolm. His land got stolen by a Ragavan and didn't have much else. But even so, he did very, very well with the overall tournament. You can see some of his philosophy for why he chose this deck and why he likes playing this deck.
I mean, honestly, that's why I like the deck, is because you pretty much always have the win in hand. The opponents are like, does this guy have the win in hand? He might not. Why isn't he going for it? Blah blah blah. I'm like ready for it because you have so much speed. Doesn't mean you have to like go out and play it as fast as you want as you can. You can just like chill with the win in your hand and just kind of enjoy the show, and then just go for it when you feel like it's safe as well. So.
Another thing that I could have done better that I didn't do in the tournament was maybe get some extra tech into my deck specifically for this tournament. I was still on like kind of the turbo online meta version that I play, where I just want to slam Glinthorn as early as possible and fucking go for it. Because people don't respect this deck as much as they should, and sometimes let me have it. And also just, it's a very fast deck. It's got a lot of protection. Sometimes it's just nothing people can do if I'm jamming a turn 3 Glinthorn win. There's not much people can do. Like, it's a creature spell. Sometimes they just get it off of Cavern of Souls. Like, sorry. But I should have anticipated having a lot of stacks coming into this tournament. I was looking at the registered decks. I knew there was a lot of Winota. I knew there was a lot of other stacks decks, and I just didn't switch any cards. Zrob made quite a few deck choices, though, to make sure that he was ready for all the stacks. You can hear what he has to say about them.
Yeah, so I know people say if you're running Niv, don't run Frostfang. I actually kept both in. Frostfang was never relevant for me this tournament, but I did keep both in. And then the sudden demise I put in because I saw that there was like a lot of stacks coming into the tournament. There was like a lot of Winota, and there was like a few other stacks, like non-Winota stacks. And sudden demise is someone played it against me in like a mystery booster draft, and they were like, oh yeah, X=3 on white. They blew up my board, and I was like, let me see that card. I've never seen this before. And I was just like, wait, this seems like a really good card. Like, you could just name this on white in EDH and just like blow up all the stack spaces. I'm gonna like think about using this card in the future. And I used it in this tournament. It was good. Just like playing sudden demise and blowing up like 4 stacks pieces, and then just being able to go for the win was pretty nice.
So that was the Founders Tournament. I had a blast personally. I learned a lot. I think I played pretty well overall, with only a few little things I could have done better that I'm going to do better next time with. I think it was just a lot of fun too, especially so because I got to see like the Temur Pirates deck pop off and make it all the way to the finals, but also just because it was a blast. We were hanging out in chat, talking a lot of shit, spectating the other games. Plasma Beam was streaming. Shoutouts to Ernesto for streaming the whole fucking thing, and we had a bunch of people in the call just commentating the stream, talking shit randomly, being unhinged. It was a good time. It was cool because Founders is kind of a content creator-ish sphere server, and the content creation for the stream was not taken very seriously. We just had a lot of fun with it. It was awesome. I'm not sure if there's Twitch VOD. I'll check before I upload this video and try to link it if there is, because I highly recommend watching it. It was just a blast. The whole game for the finals was just a blast. So it was a good time. Shoutouts to everybody who participated. Shoutouts to the admins of Founders and all the judges who helped run the tournament, all the tournament organizers who came in from other places to help with the whole thing. It was such a nice, well-run event. Had an absolute good time. It was just fun. And yeah, shoutouts to Zrob as well for taking it with Temur Pirates, and also everybody else who played in the tournament and beat me or made it to the finals or did anything. Even if you also scrubbed out, like, shoutouts for fucking playing, because that was such a good time, and everybody who played helped make it a good time. If you have a good time with our channel, you can click on the links in the description and check out our Patreon, our Twitter, our Discord. That's the spot. I'm telling you, it's the spot. You can talk to us, you can brew decks, it's great. You can play games. I also gotta give a shout out to our patrons. Their names are going out all over the place. They help make this thing tick. They help pay for a bunch of the stuff for the channel. They are fantastic. So thank you guys so much for being a part of that. And if you want to help support us, you should get in on that Patreon and check out the perks. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to everyone at Founders for making that tournament fantastic. And I'll see you all next time.